A chain of missing volcanoes in Japan. There is not simply one missing volcano in the country, but rather an entire chain of them which are missing. Now, there are numerous active volcanoes across Kyushu, the center and northern portions of Honshu, and Hokkaido, which altogether form a nearly continuous chain of activity that stretches for 2,700 kilometers or 1,678 miles in length. Yet, in this vast chain there is strangely one notable section where there are surprisingly no active volcanoes of any kind. What I am referring to is a 360-kilometer or 224-mile long stretch of land between the city of Ono to the northeast, and yes, by the way, it really is called that, and the Moridomi Steel Bridge to the far southwest. Based on how spaced volcanoes are throughout Japan, there in theory should be between 8 and 13 active volcanoes in this gap. But there are none. Why? This becomes all the more confusing when you realize that the vast majority of Japan's 104 active volcanoes are indeed caused by partial melting of subducting tectonic plates which occur due to boundaries at these highlighted tectonic plate regions. So while you might expect a simple lack of a subduction zone to the southeast in this gap, this isn't actually the case here. There is still the exact same subducting tectonic plate here, that being the Philippine Sea Plate, as there is across all of Kyushu. And yet, while Kyushu's volcanoes are largely quite active with one eruption of the Ira caldera specifically at Sakurajima vent ongoing at the present, southern Honshu has only two very infrequently erupting volcanoes and then a large gap. So, since plate subduction is still ongoing here and there should be volcanoes, why isn't there any? Well, just because a subduction zone exists does not mean that many volcanoes will be created from its partial melting. There are numerous factors which determine the rate at which partial melting and thus magma generation and intrusions into the crust occur, largely owing to the composition of the subducting slab. For example,